This is Mr. Everton, obviously, with a video about the scientific revolution, talking too fast. At the end of this video, you need to write 3 to 4 sentences. Coffee. Answering this question, what made the scientific revolution revolutionary? Now, spoiler, it's going to be because it's focusing on individual reason in order to understand the world. The scientific revolution was an intellectual movement in the 15 and 1600s. That's the same time period we've been talking about. That's the same time period as the Renaissance. It's the same time period as the Protestant Reformation. And scientists during this time period, I mean, really, this is when we start to have scientists. We've had people who did science, but this is when people start to use the word science. And the scientific revolution is very focused on observation and experiments. And those are two key elements of what we call the scientific method. The scientific method is a way for trying to make meaning and understand the world. And it leads to all kinds of new discoveries that lead to new knowledge and new ways to make the world, to make people's lives easier, usually, hopefully. It doesn't always go that way, but that's the goal most of the time. So the scientific method, you come up with a hypothesis or a thing you think is true. And then you design an experiment to test that hypothesis, and you use your brain to figure out what the results of the experiment mean. So observation and reason, these are the key ideas of the scientific revolution. Observation means you're looking for yourself with your own eyes. And reason means you're using your brain to interpret what it is you're seeing. This picture is of a famous organization in London called the Royal Society of London. And their slogan in Latin was nullius in verba, which means on nobody's word. What they mean by that is they're not going to take anybody's word for anything. They're not going to do something. They're not going to believe something just because somebody tells them. They are going to use their own eyes to go out into the world and see it for themselves. And they're going to use their brains to figure out what they think it means for themselves. And they're going to rely on the scientific method in order to create proof. And the thing about the scientific method is, while you can design an experiment to prove a hypothesis, somebody else needs to be able to go and replicate that experiment and get the same results. And another thing about science is that scientists are always challenging each other. They're always looking for holes in the ideas of another person. And so the idea is that as a community, scientists are always trying to come up with a better way of understanding the world. So nothing is written in stone. It's if you can challenge something and make a better argument and come up with a better way to understand something, then everybody's going to go with that. Also notice that on nobody's word directly challenges the ideas of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is very much an institution that will tell people no, the Pope said it and thus it is the case. You have to do what the church says. The church read it in the Bible and they interpret the Bible this way, so that means you have to interpret it that way too. The scientific revolution doesn't do that. The scientific revolution says that each individual person can use their own mind in order to understand the world for themselves, which is challenging authority, which is the theme of the unit. Look how it all comes together. It's amazing. Okay, what were some key figures? Who, I should say, were some key figures of the scientific revolution? Well, first we've got this dude. His name is Nicholas Copernicus. That's how you pronounce his name? Copernicus. Not Copernicus, but Copernicus. And Nicholas Copernicus was a very early figure in the scientific revolution. He came up possibly based off of the work of some Islamic scientists, but he usually gets credit for the heliocentric theory. Helio means sun. Centric means center. And so his theory of the universe is that the sun is at the center of the solar system. The sun is at the center of our solar system. Now, you and I know that this is the case. You've been taught that since elementary school. But when Nicholas Copernicus started saying this, it was very much counter to the way other people had understood the world. People used to think that the Earth was at the center of the solar system. And so Copernicus's idea was incredibly revolutionary and made a lot of people mad. This guy's name is Galileo Galilei. Now, he's not actually the guy looking through the telescope. It's the guy holding the telescope, standing up with the red beard looking down. That's Galileo. And he used the telescope to do all kinds of things, like discover the moons of Jupiter. But he also proved that the heliocentric theory was true. And this got him in trouble with the Catholic Church, which we will talk about in class to a great extent, a lot. So I won't go into it here. Galileo, however, used the telescope to prove heliocentric theory. This guy's name is Dr. William Harvey. Dr. William Harvey discovered that blood circulates throughout your body. Again, you're probably like, duh, Mr. Everton, William Harvey's not that smart. But no, like, there was a time when people did not understand the way that blood functioned. They didn't understand that it was bringing oxygen to the different parts of your body. And they didn't understand that the heart was like a pump that caused your blood to go through your body circulating. So William Harvey discovered that, which is kind of a big deal if, you'd like to have a doctor who can save your life and not have you die. And then finally, we have Isaac Newton. And Isaac Newton is possibly the most important of all of these. Isaac Newton wrote a very important book called Principia Mathematica, in which he basically invents calculus and physics. No big deal. Just invented calculus and invented physics. Whatever. The story about him sitting underneath an apple tree and the apple fell and hit him in the head and he discovered gravity, that's probably not true, but he did come up with mathematical equations to, prove gravity exists, and he invented physics, which is laws of motion, right? Like the reason why things move the way they do. And this isn't all of physics, like other people would come along later and add to physics, but like the basic laws of motion, the basic ways for understanding like why a ball moves through the air the way it does when you throw it, that's Isaac Newton. He's a big honking deal. You should know his name. All right. What made the scientific revolution revolutionary? Hopefully I've told you enough stuff that you can write 3 sentences. If you don't write 3 sentences, I'm going to look at your notes and I'm going to say, oh man, you only wrote 2. I'm not going to grade this today. You have to add a 3rd sentence. Yeah, that's right. Okay, that ends Unit 3. How exciting. We're just moving along. World history is just passing by. I'll talk to you soon.